Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, let's rock and roll today talking about our Detroit Lions here on the Heart of a Lions pod. Check it out. All right, everybody. It's me, Mike Vanderpool. I am here today with my good friend Kevin Lawson, a.k.a. the Honolulu Blue Encyclopedia. What's up, Kevin?
What's happening, Mike? How are you?
I'm good, man. Just getting ready for this 2021 NFL draft. I have paid zero attention to anybody that the Lions are going to pick, so I'm excited to talk to you today because I know you know what's up.
But, yeah, I've done a minute or two of research on this, so I think I can handle it. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, let's just start off by talking a little bit about ourselves, because I think what's awesome is you and I actually met on a podcast. Remember that?
Yes.
Yeah. Our friend Freddie the Pizza Man. Shout out to Freddie. 8.7 Pizza Man over in Allen Park, Melvindale, right?
The legend.
Yes. I was doing a podcast at the time. I was working on Heart of the Lions fan documentary. Freddie invited you to the podcast. We talked, and then I was like, dude, I got to talk to this guy a little bit more. So you became one of you were pretty much the primary interview on the documentary, which is, I can't thank you enough for that, because I've got something cool to show my son, and hopefully he can show his sons and all that kind of stuff. But since then, I mean, that was, what was that, 3-4 years ago?
Yes.
And since then, you and I, we split season tickets. We kind of hang out when we can at games. I've evolved as a Lions fan back from my remote control throwing day. And part of that is distancing myself a little bit from the team and what goes on off season, and even, between Sunday to Sunday, because there's a lot of stuff that goes on and I just get too invested and too involved. But the draft is coming up, and you know what's up. So fill me in. Who are we drafting with the number 7 pick this year? What are we going to do with that pick?
Well, no one knows. Let's start there. Because our roster is so devoid of talented individuals, we're not pigeonholed into any position or player. We could go a number of different directions, from defensive stalwart to one of the 3 incredible wide receivers that are rated very highly in the draft, to there's a possibility a quarterback could fall into our lap and we wouldn't be able to turn it down. There's a couple of stud offensive linemen that people are already speaking of in Pro Bowl type terms before they've even put on an NFL uniform. So there's a number of ways we could go. And then there's always the ever popular, let's trade down and hoard picks, every Lions fan's fantasy. So we could go any number of directions, and really nobody knows at this point. There's nothing leaking out of Allen Park, and nobody has a beat on what the Lions would do. Even the top pundits on the ESPNs and NFL networks of the world will all kind of slot players, and when they get to the Lions pick, it's either everybody has somebody different there, or they'll just come out and say, we have no idea what Detroit's going to do. So it's pretty exciting for us, actually. I kind of like it like this.
Yeah, I mean, for better or for worse, right? Next year we've got zero expectations. I'm finally going to stop with my 16-0 prediction.
Come on.
But yeah, what we ended up with last year, and after trading Stafford, everything else, Marvin Jones, Galladay being gone too, right? I mean, we've got Hawkinson, Ragnow, Swift on offense, and then we've got who do we have on defense? We got like one Bible defensive player right now.
Well, we've got high hopes for both Jeff Okudah and Amani Oruwariye.
Yeah, I'm glad you pronounced that name, because I couldn't.
I stand in the mirror and practice every morning. Especially considering our new defensive coordinator was an all-pro cornerback.
Yeah.
Okay. And then our defensive backs coach is his reputation for developing defensive backs is well known throughout the league. So between those two guys, there's a lot of high hopes that they can turn the secondary around pretty quickly. So we have no expectations, but to watch these kids grow will be pretty exciting, I think.
Yeah, right. And you and I think, have had this conversation before where I just want to see the team be competitive and improve and not make the same mistakes again and again and again,
Yes.
which as a Lions fan, I mean, Lucy keeps setting up that football and we keep swinging, right? But but for your secondary, right, the best thing you can do is have some pressure on the quarterback, in my mind. I mean, make that quarterback throw the ball a little bit faster, makes your job as a DB heck of a lot easier. So
yeah, we found that out the last 3 years that trying to just cover and not pressure the quarterback is a terrible recipe. Terrible.
Yeah. I don't even acknowledge the last 3 years, Kevin. Truth be told, I actually put Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia blockers on all of my internet everything. So anytime they pop up, it's just like an ad blocker. Well, I mean, I'm not going to be mad at anything they do with that first round pick, unless they were to draft a tight end. I think that's the only thing that would get every Lions fan.
There's a conversation to be had there too.
Oh no.
Yes. This will kick us off really, really well. How about this? The number one non-quarterback in the draft is a tight end by name only, in position name only. He is what people are calling the closest thing we've seen to Calvin Johnson since Calvin Johnson came out. His name is Kyle Pitts. He's from the University of Florida, 6'5", 240, runs a 4.4. He's got an 83-inch wingspan. He's an absolute freak of nature. And the only reason that the Lions aren't going to be tempted by him, in my opinion, is he's going to be gone before number 7. There's an ongoing debate as to, should we call him a tight end? Should we call him a wide receiver? Should we just call him an offensive weapon? He's dynamic, but he's so coveted. The chances that he'll be there at 7 are really, really dwindling, almost to there being no chance that it's going to happen. But
I don't even.
The reason he was sitting there at 7, they'd have a heck of a decision to make because he's so dynamic.
And really, we just need playmakers, right? I mean, that's the bottom line. You need somebody that can make something happen on the field.
Yes, I mean, not to get all geeky about it, but you line up Hockenson and the 2 wide receivers to one side and put him on the other side. What's the defense going to do? You can't single cover him with a linebacker. He's too fast. You can't single cover him with a corner. He's too big. What are you going to do? So now you're committing 1.5 to 2 people to his side of the field, which is either going to open up one of the other 3 on the other side, or you'll be able to run the ball down someone's throat.
So did he play the traditional tight end position then at college?
Yes, but he was flexed out at least half the time.
Right on.
But he's something. He's something. You couldn't stop him.
Well, I wonder if oh geez, I can't remember the name of our coach, Kevin. I'm an embarrassment. I put on the gear and I don't even.
Dan Campbell.
Dan Campbell, thank you. Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes, right? That's the GM, our new GM. Dan Campbell is a tight end himself. Maybe he sees something and knows something about that position that he'd like to see some creativity out of that position, maybe.
Absolutely. That has to be somewhere in the back of his mind, that itch to think, if I can get my hands on these 2 tight ends, being a tight end myself, I know it sounds crazy that you spent 2 top 10 picks on a tight end, but if anybody's ever going to be worth it, it's Kyle Pitts.
Yeah,
he'll be there for us.
Look, let's say a quarterback was available. Which of the top quarterbacks would you want the Lions to potentially take?
I'm a Justin Fields guy, and it's not even close for me.
That's crazy. You being a Michigan man.
I know. Maybe that's why I respect him so much, because I've had to watch him, just torture the entire Big Ten for 2 straight seasons. He's back-to-back Big Ten Player of the Year. I think he's lost 2 games in his career. I could be wrong. I could be off by 1, but he runs a 4.4. He's 6'3", 230. He's special. I watched him completely destroy Clemson. We're talking Clemson. We're not talking about, Purdue in the national championship semis. 6 touchdowns with the cracked rib. Almost got broken 2. Went out for 1 play, came back in, threw a touchdown pass, and continued on and threw 6 touchdowns and ran number 1 pick Trevor Lawrence and the Clemson Tigers right out of the building.
Well, and Detroit, we love our tough players, right? Like you take a lick and get up, you're automatically like, we love you.
You're a Lion for life at that point. So when talking about the quarterback position, we've got Jared Goff, obviously, and where people stand on that is all over the map. But if we were to take Justin Fields, I would look at it from this standpoint. In our entire lifetimes, we've had 1 good quarterback. Would the worst thing in the world be to have 2 on 1 roster?
Well, that's where I think we screwed up the past 3 years. Imagine if we would have drafted a quarterback to replace Stafford, what we could have got for Stafford other than another quarterback.
Correct.
Oh, I mean, I don't want to talk about the past because, dear God, it hurts too much. But like that just feels like
behind him. And we've rarely had 2 competent ones on the roster at one time.
Now that's a disgrace to John Kitten and Dan Orlovsky, but
I'm so sorry.
Don't sell Kitten short, man. He should have been offensive. We should have fired
I'm sorry. That combo went 0-16.
Oh yeah, but they had heart, man. 0-16, which will never go. There'll never be another team to go. Well, no, they could go 0-16 if. Then they'd have to go 0-16 to go 0-17.
They'd have an interesting decision if Fields is there at 7.
And I think for us Lions fans, we just got to be realistic. I mean, next year we win 5 games,
right?
And no one player that we take right now is gonna change that drastically. I don't think. I mean, if you draft a quarterback, they're probably not going to see much of the field, which would be fine by me.
Correct.
So they're not going to have impact. We draft. We say, is it Pitts? Kyle Pitts? Is that his name? As our tight end / wide receiver. Okay, he's going to catch 5 balls a game, 3 balls. I mean, the interesting thing about football versus the other sports is like that one player doesn't really change a whole lot.
Correct. Correct.
That's why I love football more than any other sport now. Watching it's just the ultimate team game. But I mean, who are the good defenders that we might? Is there a chance we could take a defender in the first round?
The only one that gets talked about of possibly going in the top 7 is linebacker Micah Parsons from Penn State. He's a monster. He's a monster. He has some off the field things that need to be vetted, and I'm sure the Lions have vetted him by now. He's come out and said that he's had multiple conversations with Detroit, very good conversations. So I would imagine, being the type of guy that Dan Campbell is, he probably had a heart-to-heart with the kid, and let's talk through this. Let's see who you are. Let's talk about the things that you've done and why you did them, and if it's a character flaw, or if it was a one-day episode that we've all done.
Yeah, dear God, if I was held accountable for all the dumb shit I did in the past,
exactly,
right? Like
exactly.
And that's the vibe though I'm picking up from like Dan Campbell and both him and Holmes, right? Is that like they're just real people. They feel like they're down to earth, they're blue collar, they get it. I mean, they fit Detroit. And whereas in the past we might have avoided some players because of those issues, we might be looking right now.
With them. I think they'll feel like if the person is not just genuinely a bad person, that personality can be managed in this locker room.
Yeah, there's this book I'm reading because I do a lot of reading and stuff about like leadership and whatever else. There's this book called like Multipliers, right? And it's about this idea that leaders can either create geniuses around them or try to prove that they're geniuses themselves. I feel like we're in that position where we got some leaders who are now going to make the people around them better, where the previous regime was all about proving how smart they were, right?
Couldn't agree more. couldn't agree. That's a fantastic analogy. I need that book, by the way, when you finish.
Right on. Right on. What else? So first round, yeah, whatever. But what about the later rounds? Who are we looking at? What are our chances? I mean, I know it's kind of all these mock drafts and everything crack me up. Once you get past like the first 10 picks or first round,
Right.
You're just like, okay, whatever. But
okay, so to wrap up the first round, let's talk about the two offensive linemen.
Right on. Yeah, thank you.
Penei Sewell, offensive lineman from Oregon, 20-year-old, absolute animal. If he doesn't turn out to be great, everyone will be completely shocked. His movement skills, his ability to get to the second level and block is top notch. Cincinnati sitting at 5 is probably the only option of him not making it to us.
Mm-hmm.
He slips by Cincy at 5. He'll probably be there for us at 7.
What position does he play?
Offensive tackle.
Okay.
He played left tackle in college, but something a lot of people don't know, he played right tackle in high school, and that's where he would probably line up here, is at right tackle. And he's already come out and said he's been practicing at right tackle recently for the possibility that an NFL team could move him. Don't think the Lions aren't one of those teams he's thinking about when he made that proclamation. The other one is Rashaan Slater. Northwestern, played right tackle his first 2 years, played left tackle last year. His claim to fame is, besides just being a hell of a player already, he absolutely shut down and manhandled last year's second pick overall, Chase Young from Ohio State. On film, the entire world saw it. He absolutely handled him. And that's what brought him a lot of notoriety. A lot of people think Slater will ultimately be better than Sewell because he's just so steady. He's just all game. Technique. It never wavers. He's just a do my job every down type of a guy.
I mean, if I had my druthers, Kevin, I would honestly have to go offensive line.
100%.
I mean, I'm just the trenches, right? Like if you got a good offensive line, you can run the ball, you can pass the ball, right? Like you and I can fall through a hole, a big enough hole, right, for 3 yards.
So now let's talk about what the line would look like. Taylor Decker at left tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Last year's rookie Jonah Jackson at left guard. Frank Ragnow at center. You're going to move Big V to right guard, and hopefully he won't break his foot again like Patricia had him do last year, running up the hill, trying to get him in shape. And now one of those two rookies at right tackle. That has the potential to be top 5 very, very quickly in the NFL.
And right, Swift's going to be better because of that.
Right.
You put carry on blocking with them. That's going to make everything else or protecting as part of that group. Then Goff gets better. I mean, everybody gets better when the line's better, right? On both sides of the ball.
And now the next 2 years, when you've got 2 first-round picks each year because of the Stafford trade, you're building around that nucleus. Now you've got something to build around. You've got your wall. Now you can build around it from there. And that makes all the difference in the world. Instead of mixing and matching, there's the nucleus of the team. Now we build around it. That really gets me excited.
And I hate to say it, but wasn't that the reality of what the Patriot way was? Like when the Patriots were the best, they were stable inside, right?
Yes. When the Cowboys were at their best, offensive line. Heck, when the Rams went to the Super Bowl, when Goff was there, offensive line. It makes all the difference in the world.
Which is something I've railed on for years that we didn't actually truly address, right?
Right.
We had
wrong people.
Yeah. We had an undersized center for a freaking decade and wonder why we couldn't win. No offense.
Yes. He was tough though.
Yeah, exactly. And we love our tough players, but again, toughness is only going to get you so far when it's a game of speed and size. What's that?
If he weighed 320 instead of 290, it would have been a whole different deal.
Yeah. So
So
we cool on the first round then?
Absolutely.
All right. All right. I'll take any of those offensive linemen, or dude, I'll take anybody. So moving on into the later rounds, I mean, I don't know, hard for us to pick exactly who's going to be there and who we can pick, but like, who are some of the standouts kind of in the draft that you're looking for in those later rounds that would be cool if they landed on Lions?
So I would say if we go any of the directions we just talked about in the first round, there'll be a certain segment of the fan base that'll freak out because everybody says Marvin Jones is gone, Kenny Galladay's gone, Danny Amendola's gone. We have to go wide receiver. We don't have to go wide receiver in the first round. This draft literally is 30 players deep at wide receiver that'll make an NFL roster without question. So there's plenty of wide receivers to be had, second, third, even fourth round that will come in and play in Detroit. Let's see. We've got Big Ten country. We've got Rashad Bateman from Minnesota, Rondale Moore from Purdue, Nico Collins from Michigan. Those are a few second, third round options. You've got Elijah Moore from Ole Miss, Kadarius Toney from Florida. There's so many options for us. De'Ami Brown from North Carolina. I could go on forever. There's so many different options. Mm-hmm. You pick your flavor. Do you want a big guy outside that plays a jump ball? Do you want a 5'9" slot guy that runs a 4.3 40? What are you looking for? What's your flavor?
So who do we have at wide receiver right now?
Terrell Williams played under Anthony Lynn out in San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
San Diego. He was injured last year with the Raiders. They cut him. We picked him up. He is talented enough to be probably a really good number 2 when he's healthy. He's had a few injury issues, but he is not without talent.
Mm-hmm.
Rashad Perryman, Brett Perryman's son, is here. He was a former first-round pick. He's yet to completely find his groove, although he did score 3 touchdowns against the Lions at Ford Field 2 years ago.
Doesn't everybody? Fitzpatrick is still living off that game.
Right, exactly. Sam Darn, we could go on forever.
Yeah.
But he's on the other side of Williams. And then they picked up a couple of late round guys to kind of fill in the slot and be the kick returner until we supplement from the draft. So, I mean, they've got bodies to run out there, but there's no true number 1 difference maker on the roster yet. And that's why people think we should go wide receiver at number 7 overall.
Well, and so let's talk about Goff then for a second, right? Because we're talking about wide receivers. We obviously got to talk about the person that's throwing the ball to him. Like when Goff was having success with the Rams, and I personally may have seen 1 or 2 games during that playoff run. I'm assuming you might have seen and know a little bit more than I do because you just know more than I do in general. What type of player are we looking for to really get the most out of Goff?
Well, in Sean McVay's offense, and whether it was tailored towards Goff or Goff had to tailor his game towards what McVay wanted, they specialized in mid-round, really precise route running wide receivers. Guys that just run really good routes, a lot of crossing patterns to get open. That's kind of what they tailored their game to. Cooper Kupp, fantastic route runner. Robert Woods, those were their guys. But the Lions, the guys that they brought in have all been tailored towards speed. So I think we're gonna be set up a little bit differently. Terrell Williams, under 4.4. Perryman, 4.4. The 2 little slot guys, under 4.4. So we have a type. So when you're watching the draft next weekend, and we select a wide receiver, immediately go and put that guy, Google his 40 time and see what it comes up as. I guarantee you, he's not going to be a slow guy.
Well, and that's still been one of my gripes in the past. And again, I don't know everything. I don't know anything, in all honesty. But what I do know is that the Lions don't get separation. For the past as long as I've watched them, their wide receivers do not get any separation, and that's probably a combination of precision in their routes and their speed.
Correct.
We tend to have leaned towards big dudes who can go up and get a ball versus creating space, and I think that's why Calvin Johnson's hands look like they do.
Right.
Well, Stafford's part of the blame there a little bit too, but
and even last year in the draft, I mean, and I really like this guy, but we draft Quintez Cephas. He was literally the slowest wide receiver in the draft.
yeah,
He has the very slowest, the 40 of the at the very bottom of the entire wide receiver class, and we picked him.
yeah.
So
Why would you?
tells you, but there's a change in philosophy in Allen Park now. So keep your eyes open for whoever we pick. I guarantee he's going to have some speed.
And the energy is good, right? Like, I mean, obviously this fan base is, you and I have talked about this before, and I've been involved on some different levels too. Like, and again, I've separated out some of the people I used to follow on Twitter and things like that just to try to save my sanity. Twitter's not a good place for Lions fans, right? Or it's an interesting place for Lions fans. But the energy feels different right now, right? I don't have this delusional optimism that I've had in the past. I've just got this like Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes and even Sheila, right? We won't talk about Rod Wood because we know how I feel about Rod Wood. But there's this energy that like it's just going to be better. And maybe 5, I'll take 5 wins as long as they're good wins and as long as we're competitive in the other games. Like at the end of the day, you're not going to win all the games. At the end of the day, if you win one Super Bowl every 32 years, you're kind of average like everybody, with everybody else. Like there is not this, this thing that the Patriots had the dynasty, that's once in a lifetime type thing for a lot of people. I just want to have a team that goes out there, plays hard, is competitive and a coaching staff that doesn't make the same mistakes week to week.
We want to be competitive and we want to see that there's a plan in place and there's some progress being made.
Yeah.
We've got to see Okudah play better than he played last year.
Yeah.
We want to see, we don't want Goff to regress any further and make it look like, man, we've got to draft a quarterback in 2022, no matter what. You don't want that feeling. We got to keep Hawkinson healthy. So Deshaun Hand, it's been hurt for 3 years. We need some development. All those things we need to see change and progress and hope. We talk about hope all the time.
Yeah. Sometimes that's all we got, right? And once we lose it, then we got nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't Lions just hired some other conditioning training person, right? Did you see that happen last couple of days?
Yes, I did not read up on it thoroughly. The restaurant had me in the headlock and was giving me a couple shots. So, a female, correct?
I just saw the headline, and like I said, I for my own sanity, I try to avoid anything between Sunday to Sunday anymore.
I'll have to double back to it, and we'll talk about it on a future episode. But I'm pretty sure it was a female.
I always thought that what the Lions should have done with Stafford, and maybe even with all their future quarterbacks, is put them in karate and learn how to take a fall. But if we draft offensive line first round, maybe
there you go.
That won't be as much of a need.
Practice passing.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. We'll keep this short and sweet because too much of me isn't I'm an acquired taste, Kevin. But it's always good talking to you. We'll end on talking about what your realistic predictions are for next year. We've seen this schedule. I mean, we haven't seen the specific schedule. We know who we're playing. And I know it's a silly question because none of these teams, we don't even know what these teams are until like 3 or 4 weeks into the season, right?
Right.
But what are your hopes, expectations for next season?
Not knowing who we selected yet in the draft and not knowing how the schedule falls, I would say anything over 5 wins, I'll be very pleased with. Anything under 4, and I'll probably cringe a little bit. If we go 3 and 14, just even with our, we know our talent level isn't where we'll eventually end up. but 3-14 will be pretty painful to endure.
And we got to beat Chicago and we got to beat Minnesota at home at our place, right? I mean,
right.
If for us to see, for us to see progress, I don't want to start at 0 in the division, right? We got to win a couple of games in the division, and then I'd love to see us beat LA.
Oh, that'll be the one that everybody has.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. All right. Well, let's wrap it up. I'm cool. Unless you got anything else you want to contribute here.
This was great. Can't wait to do it after the draft. So we'll really have something to sink our teeth into.
Yeah, for sure.
Talk about some moves and some, hey, how did this go down? And are we better? Do we? And the main thing will be, we'll be able to finally see the beginnings of what the plan really is.
Yeah. Yeah, because Brad Holmes has done a phenomenal job. I just read the quote he gave to the media, like the last presser he did, and there's like he's playing poker, right? Like
he was good too.
Yeah. But yeah, I think you can only at some point you got to start showing your cards, and this draft will be the start of that. So
yes, it'll start Thursday, and I think moving around. I think we'll maneuver the board a little bit. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what he does.
Well, last thing I'll ask you, how do you watch the draft? What's your draft strategy? What's your draft day like?
I usually close the door and I'm all by myself for the most part. Between Twitter and Lions fans,
it's hard.
Who talk it nonstop. My phone and computer are usually buzzing pretty good, and I'm usually hunkered down and just kind of geeking out. It's one of my favorite days of the year by far.
Well, in the past, it's been the Lions Super Bowl, right? But this year I must say, this year feels a little bit different. It's probably not playoffs. It's probably not anything too crazy, but it feels like it's going to be better than the past few years.
I agree. It's exciting. Very exciting.
All right. Kevin, good talking to you. Good catching up, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. We'll talk soon.
All right. Take care, buddy. I want to make sure we take the time to thank you for listening to today's podcast. We will be back with more Detroit Lions action here on the Heart of a Lions pod. I want to give a special shout out to Kevin MacLeod. He provided the music here. District 4, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. Making it happen the Detroit way. Let's go, everybody.